All right, everyone, if you could just take your seats. We saved the best for last. This is going to be the structuring handicapping contest panel. We have a great group here. If everybody could just quiet down, and we are going to kick it off. Go ahead, Michele.
Hi, I'm Michele Ravencraft, and I manage the National Horse Players Championship and the Eclipse Awards for the NTRA. I've worked in the industry in different capacities.
Yeah, 1 second.
That's okay.
You said you're good now.
I'm good now? Okay. I've worked in the industry in different capacities for over 20 years. The favorite part of my career has been working with the horse players and the NHC. The NHC is a 3-day tournament celebrating the best handicappers in the country and Canada, awarding over $4 million in cash and prizes. Horse players are intelligent, dedicated, generous, and a persistent group of people that are vital to our industry. You cannot buy your way into the NHC. You must qualify through a sanctioned NHC qualifier, hosted at a racetrack, a casino racebook, an OTB, online horse racing handicapping sites, or an ADW. The NHC's tour schedule currently has 30 qualifying sites. Here with me are 3 contest directors of the largest participating host sites of the NHC and other contests across the country. They're huge advocates of growing handicapping contests across the country. We have Dustin Fabian, who is the Senior Director of Marketing, XpressBet and FirstBet, Jim Goodman, Director of Wagering Development at Keeneland, and Brian Skirka, Marketing Manager at Monmouth Park. Thank you all for being here and discussing how handicapping contests engage and grow new customers to the sport. So the first question is, I mentioned how much I enjoy working with horse players. Can the 3 of you tell us one or more of your most memorable contest experiences?
For me, I think it's a general. It's seeing the results of the contests on the players over the years, whether it's a literal, okay, I just won $20,000 and a trip to Vegas, that's obviously tremendous. But even more so, it's the relationships that I've seen over the years, between me and the players, between the players and themselves. You obviously run the NHC, there's players that sit at the same table every year. They're players that are, lifelong friendships that are developed because they met at the NHC, or they met playing a Monmouth contest, or they met playing a Keeneland contest. We have fathers and sons that play. We have, uncles and nephews that play. We have husbands and wives that play. Knowing that we are not only awarding them some financial prizes, but a father and son, that play at Monmouth all the time always get lucky enough to qualify for the NHC, and I walk around, I see them, they're at the craps table together. They're obviously sitting at the same table, and you just know that they have lifelong memories that these contests give them. More so than, maybe not more so, but equally to, again, any cash that they might win. So just knowing that we're making money for ourselves, the track, we're getting people to bet on horse racing, which obviously is our ultimate goal, but we're also making memories with people through friendships and relationships is probably my number one.
I have 2, is this one working? Can you hear me? No. No? Is this one on? As close as I can get. There it is. There's. Oh, now it works. I'm sorry. I have 2 memories to share, and one of them is in the BCBC tournament at Keeneland in 2022 actually. Flightline won the Breeders' Cup Classic, and to win the Breeders' Cup Classic betting challenge, we had a player named Drew Coatney who placed a $93,000 win wager on Flightline at 2-5 and won $135,000 plus a $400,000 first prize in the BCBC. I also have a negative one to share with you. One of my first tournaments where I had to disqualify somebody, had a guy hit a superfecta in the last race and cashed for around 20 grand. He was running around. He was a Tennessee fan. I'm a UK fan, obviously. And he was a UT fan, had all his orange on, and he was running around screaming, and I won $40,000, and I had to disqualify him because he didn't bet enough in the last race. And the UT fan went from screaming to crying, and I didn't take any pleasure in that. It really, well, maybe just a little bit, but he's a great guy, and I remember that so well because one of my jobs is compliance officer for not only the NHC, but for the BCBC, so I've had to disqualify other people, but that's the one that sticks with me because that was my first one.
A little concerned that Jim's favorite moment was disqualifying somebody, but no, when I think of the tournament space and favorite moments, it's not one thing, but it's you're sitting in a tournament room, and whether it's Las Vegas, whether it's Gulfstream Park in Miami, whether it's Santa Anita, it's the energy in the room, and it's palpable. It makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up when you're sitting there. There's people, there's adrenaline, horses are running down the stretch, and you've just got hundreds of people with money on the line, $20,000, $40,000 on the line, and they're all just screaming their horses home. I truly think it's, one of the best experiences in horse racing. Anybody who has been there to the NHC or to any of these other events knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you haven't been there, highly recommend it because it just, it really takes the horse player experience, balls it up and puts it into one room that's roughly the size of this, and just really something that sticks with you.
Thank you. Dustin, we talked in advance of today's discussion, and you mentioned you were excited to participate on this panel alongside with Brian and Jim, because tournament play comes down to a few things for XpressBet: awareness, community, opportunity, and collaboration. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head initially when you were talking about tournament players. And tournament players they're savvy, they're loyal, they really understand this space as well as anybody. They're as core of a horse player as you can find. And I think, when we were kind of talking initially, you had mentioned there were around 620 people in the NHC last year. And the BCBC this year, there were about 600 people in there. And our big tournament at first is the Pegasus Betting Championship. We have 250 people played in it last year, and I think a lot of those numbers those are the records. That's the best we've ever done. So, this is a space where success is measured in the hundreds, not in the thousands, not in the tens of thousands. So you have to be so, so on top of things. The fit has to be there. The communication between tournament providers is so key. Getting the word out across different ADWs and different host sites and different sites that feed in, like horse tourneys and some of those. So, we can't live in a world where there's people going and running and doing their own thing. And Brian and Jim are, phenomenal partners, and they put the customer experience first. They put the health of the tournament space top of mind. So when I think about, when Michele mentioned, she was like, hey, this is going to be at the symposium. I was like, that's a great topic. She's like, and Brian and Jim, perfect. Because these guys, just the health of the tournament space and shepherding it through the next generation and the next evolutions, they're phenomenal. So, I'm lucky to be up here with them, and I appreciate everything you guys do for the space.
So Jim and Brian, with this collaboration, can you tell us how your contests have grown over the years and the benefits of hosting contests to the horse player and tournament host site?
Sure. With Dustin, we worked with XpressBet for a few years. So COVID was kind of the dividing line for contests in a lot of ways. Before COVID, it was mostly on-site only. If you held a contest at Monmouth Park, you had to be at Monmouth Park. To go play in the Keeneland contest, you had to go to Keeneland. COVID obviously was the complete opposite. We still were able to do some contests online only, and that was the changing point. Now, we still want to incentivize players to come on site. We make more money, higher percentage of the handle when we're on site. But the reality is that the online contest play is you can never go back to on site only. So that means that we have developed relationships with Dustin at XpressBet, with other ADWs to try to incentivize as many people as possible to play on site, but also have that avenue for them to play. You can be in California and play in a Monmouth Park contest, which before COVID never existed before. So in terms of numbers, we're, as Dustin said, our main handicapping contests for this year were record number of participation, coming off of last year, which was a record, coming off of the year before that is a record. So we're leveraging all of our partnerships. I feel like this is a good panel and a good space that we're one of the few where we could actually say we all work together. A lot of panels say we should work together, whether it's an industry or whatever. We all do. You know, before I have a handicapping contest, I reach out to Michele. She helps promote it for us. I talk to Jim, you know, what does this happen at your last contest, Jim? He'll, you know, provide information that I'll use into mine and vice versa. You know, Dustin promotes to his contest list. The more players that play in the Monmouth contest is better for Keeneland, because that's just more people in the contest pool and vice versa. So I feel like this is a good space where we actually can all work together, and we are seeing, you know, positive and the best numbers we've ever had in the contest space.
Yeah, I think the tournament space is one that we've been successful because Brian has the most successful, what I call a high money contest. It's a $1,500 buy-in called Pick Your Prize in the summertime. And last year he had 330?
323.
I'm sorry, 323. I had 291, 299. We compete back and forth. Mine's $3,500, so I did a little more handle than you did. But we have the two most successful live money tournaments. The Pegasus is a big tournament, but they don't have quite that number.
Correct. Yeah, we were 240.
Yeah, so we all work together. We all share the same space. He has an employee named Crystal Bartko. If anybody wants to hire Crystal away from XpressBet, she is absolutely the most wonderful customer service person I've ever dealt with in my life. I told her if she comes to Lexington, I'm going to hire her, I don't care what, but she's going to stay in Pittsburgh, so you guys got no shot. But we work so well with XpressBet. When we went from having on-site only to a hybrid because of COVID, same thing that happened to Brian. I had an online only in the summer of 2020, and I had 250 players. I had never had 250 players on site. So we started doing the hybrid contest, and XpressBet is our most valuable partner, but also Twin Spiders now is in the tournament space, TVG, and Naira Bets and HPI. So we have all those sources to come together. We use the BCBC software to do a leaderboard, and it's a different type of tournament. You don't have that excitement that you have at an on-track only, but the numbers are so much better. The people can play easily. We don't make quite as much money, but the ADWs do make money. So it's a really good space for us, and tournament players are very loyal to your track. I mean, they love Keeneland, they love Monmouth, and they work hard at doing their craft, and it's a very good space to be in, competing against your fellow competitors.
So I wanted you all to talk a little bit about your contest offerings. I know you mentioned some of your larger tournaments, but also talk about some of your lower entry fee tournaments that, you know, different contests can appeal to all different levels of player.
Sure. So at Monmouth, we do roughly 12 contests a month. I'm going to jump ahead and get this horrible picture of me off the screen for once. Thank you. We do about 12 contests a year, one a month. They range from a $300 buy-in all the way up to the Pick Your Prize, which is a $2,000 buy-in. And usually it's 50-50, so they're all live money contests. You know, I work at Monmouth Park. Our goal is to get as much handle as physically possible. So they're all live money contests, and 50% of your buy-in goes to the bankroll, 50% goes to the prize pool. So if it's a $300 contest, you hand me $300, I hand you right back a betting card that's loaded with $150 on it. Your other $150 goes into the prize pool kitty. Obviously $150 times however many people we have in the contest, that's how much we award in prizes. We give the players we give them a framework of what they can and have to bet. So we'll say what tracks you're allowed to bet. Usually it's Monmouth and one or two other tracks. We'll say what type of bets you're allowed to make. Some contests are just win, play, show. Some we have exactas and doubles. And then to initiate churn and initiate wagering, we'll say you have to bet a certain number of races at a certain dollar amount. We don't want, okay, I gave you a betting card with $150 on it. All you're going to do is make one $150 bet, and that's it. You know, we want churn. It's not a true betting contest, in my opinion. And you know, as the track, we want you to churn. So we make sure that you bet at least 5 to 10 races, depending on the contest. And from there, it's, you know, best man or woman wins. So I think I have a couple numbers here just to show, one, how successful contests are, and two, a little bit of the growth. So this past year in 2024, we had 12 contests. Total handle as a result of the contest is just under 1.6 million. Now that is just the amount bet on the physical betting card. We can track what you bet in the contest. We can't track what you bet outside of the contest, which to me is one of the, if not the biggest reason to do contests. So in 2024, we know that contest players bet exactly a little over $1.5 million. What we don't know the exact number, but we know for sure that those contest players, as a result of having to handicap every single Monmouth Park race for these contests, they're betting pick fours, trifectas, pick fives, in addition to the contest. These are the core handicapping players. If they're handicapping every single race, they're not going to just bet the $200 or $300 that they do in the handicapping contest. They're making sure that they're maximizing their time and effort. They've handicapped every race. They want to win the contest. They also want to hit the pick four. They also want to hit the pick five. So these numbers are just what it was in the contest, and ancillary bets are absolutely a reason to do contests. Just as a comparison, in 2017, we did 11 contests, and contest handle was under $1 million. So contests are growing. A lot of that is working with Dustin and XpressBet and contests like that. And just as a reference, to do that $1.7 million in handle that we've done this year in the contest, our out-of-pocket expenses are $33,400. So I hear a lot of times people say, the contests are expensive, I don't want to do them as a result of that. If you do them the right way, they're not really that expensive. Even if you say that we profited 10% on that $1.57 million, that's still $157,000 in revenue. It costs us $33,400 to get there. So a lot of the prizes that you give away come out of the prize pool. It's not necessarily you taking that money out of your pocket. Now we do for things like buffets for the nicer contests. Everyone gets a program, of course, but it's not a hugely expensive enterprise. Okay, I have one more slide that I'll go through very quickly here. So we do a couple different contests at Monmouth during the simulcast season and during the live season. Just to show you, so in 2023, we did not have a contest on February 25th. We did have a contest on February 24th this year, and as a result, it's a 15% increase. Then during the live season, there was a day in August where we went from, in 2022, we had a food festival. We had 11 races, a lot more people at the track. Live handle was $351,000. The next year on that same day, we had a handicapping contest. We had much fewer people on site. We had one less race, but live handle was up pretty considerably. So just shows that the contests work. You just have to format it in the correct way, which is kind of the tricky part, because what works for players in New Jersey might not exactly work for players in Keeneland. We do a lot of surveying, listening to the players, and try to set up the contests accordingly.
So Brian, you mentioned, we talked about two earlier, you do a couple of free contests, mythical contests, just to get people into the contest world. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Sure. So to me, when you decide that you want to do a contest, the next big step is, what is your ultimate goal? Is your ultimate goal, I want to put a contest on our biggest race day, and the only goal is to get as much handle as physically possible? Is your goal, we're maybe a little bit of a lesser track, or in Mama's case, it's Saratoga, it's August, it's Saratoga and Del Mar season, but we're trying to get a few eyeballs on the Monmouth and off of Saratoga. And in that, I want to get eyeballs on my race's space. There's also free options. We do what we call Survival at the Shore, which is a season-long free handicapping contest. A player goes in. We, as the track, give them past performances for 3 races that we select every day. You, as the player, have to go in, pick one horse in each of those 3 races. As long as one of those 3 horses hit the board, you advance to the next day, so on and so forth. Along the way, you're gathering mythical bankroll you get a $2 across the board bet on each of these horses. So you're gaining mythical bankroll as you go. As long as one of your horses hits the board, you're advancing day after day. And then we, as the track, award prizes. If you have the #1 bankroll at the end of the year, I think you get $2,500, and it goes down from there. If you're one of the, each week we give out weekly prizes. You pick the most winners this week. We'll send you, a Monmouth Park prize pack and stuff. So it's just something that it costs us minimal, if anything. It has someone going to our website every day that we race to handicap 3 races, and I would almost guarantee the reason we do this is we're not getting a direct handle, obviously, from those mythical bets, but if you're handicapping 3 of our races every day, how many of those people are going to their ADW and betting those races? So when they go 3 for 3 on that day, they don't want to just pick up mythical money. They want to, win actual money too. So that would be a big recommendation maybe for some smaller tracks. If you don't want to, go through the work of running a live money contest, there are free money contests out there, whether it's for an entire season or for a big day. Like I said, we do one for the entire season. We do one just on Haskell Day.
Okay, Jim?
So there are goals that you need to attain when you set up a contest, and one of the goals is get more eyeballs on your races. Second goal is to qualify people for the NHC, which Michele does a wonderful job at running, is the most lucrative handicapping contest in the country, and the BCBC is the best live money contest. So we have a goal of putting more eyeballs, making money, and providing players an opportunity to qualify for the big tournaments. See if I can figure this out here. Is that yours? No. Okay, there you go. One of the things that when you come to a conference like this, I'm a gambler, and I'm in charge of gambling at Keeneland. I'm a director of wagering development. Sometimes we lose sight of the fact that horse players are the most important thing to our industry. We can't survive without owners. We can't survive without horses, but would we really have an industry if we couldn't gamble on their product? And so we need to treat horse players with the respect that they deserve. And one of the things that we do at Keeneland is we try to provide a good experience. As you can see, I won't go through all these, but taking care of the handicappers, taking care of the horse players, I assign a concierge to them for their ticket needs, for their travel needs, and she contacts them 2 weeks out, and she takes care of everything that they need to come to Keeneland. I structure the prizes so that there is substantial reward for risk, to have them play those tournaments for a goal. And my first place in my tournament this year was $56,000 plus a BCBC and an NHC spot. So a guy had a $100,000 day with his bankroll. I can't see these very well. I'm too short. I can't believe I'm too short to see this. Competitive race cards, put them in the best area available. I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to get this on my phone so I can actually see it. Okay. Good food and drinks, that's an important thing to horse players. And then follow up in the off season and treat them as valuable customers. Here's some numbers that we have for last year. This is my one tournament in the fall, which is my most recent tournament. Our net income, and Brian was talking about how expensive it is to run a tournament. I make money on my tournaments. I do live money tournaments with big buy-ins, and we made $106,000 on the handle. And that's after giving away 102.55% of the prize money that was dedicated to players. Pay me $3,500, of which $1,000 goes to prize money, and we gave back 100% plus 2.5%. So the total prize money was $249,200. Had 116 players on track, 127 off track with Dustin. I think you had like 80 of those. And so we obviously make more money on track, but we make about half that playing through an ADW. And then the next one is just basically, okay. And this is my tournament by the numbers, something similar to what Brian did. 2.6 million was my total handle in my tournaments, and we made over $200,000 in net revenue. So it is very lucrative for the track as well. Now, this is something totally unrelated to handicapping. I wanted to show you all our new paddock building at Keeneland. So this has nothing to do with it, but I had a chance. I've got a forum here. So as you drive up the hill past the sales pavilion, this is going to be what it looks like. And it's a $93 million plus whatever we're over budget project. It's going to add 1,300 seats with a new paddock, a very much safer paddock area for the saddling of the horses. The jockeys will have a new jockeys room, and they will walk through a dining area to go to their horses, which is kind of a cool interactive thing. There's another view of it. And this is what we've been looking at for about a year at Keeneland, our beautiful paddock with all this ugly steel. but you can see it's a huge addition to the track. And I promise you, it's going to look just like it's been always there at Keeneland. So just a little aside, I wanted to show you this will be ready in October.
Dustin, your contest, XpressBet contest menu platform has grown tremendously. So just give us a little bit kind of what you all offer, and how did these handicapping tournaments fit in your overall marketing program to grow wagering on XpressBet?
Sure. No, first of all, I love going after Jim because he just pulls out cool pictures that everyone wants to see. Yeah, no, I think from our side, we're on pace to run about 400 tournaments this year at XpressBet. Really excited about that, and it should generate about $10 million in total handle, which is quite significant and a number we wanted to get across this year. Tournaments that we run, lowest buy-in is about $40. The highest is $6,000, which I mentioned we have a big tournament on Pegasus Day each year. So, you know, lot in between there, but you know, really feeders are key for us. So when we started in 2019, 2018, I think we were running about 30 tournaments a year. Now we've moved up to, like I said, 400 tournaments. Most of those are feeders that push into some of our biggest contests on Pegasus Day, on California Crown Day. We also have some Ultimate Betting Challenge on Fountain of Youth Day at Gulfstream. So, you know, a lot of emphasis there. And when you mentioned, you know, marketing programs, so you know, when we're going into a big event, especially at a first track, tournament is paramount to what we're pushing as a marketing team. You know, we're talking about the promotions, we're talking about the advertising, we're talking about the tournaments that we're going to run, and how you know, what we did last year, what the results of those were, how they're going to, you know, move forward for the future. We take feedback from our customers, from tournament players. You know, they have a lot of great opinions that we're able to emphasize and roll into what we're doing, and then we push live with, again, in a perfect world. If we run a $1,500 tournament on Florida Derby Day, for example, a couple of weeks in advance, we'll start running $40 feeders that'll maybe roll into maybe a $150 feeder, maybe a $300 feeder that pushes into that $1,500. You know, one of our great success stories and things that really make us excited is you look at Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, and it's a $10,000 tournament. And you know, we had a player this year who was so excited because he started in a $40 feeder that went into a $200 feeder, that went into a $1,000 feeder, that got into the $10,000 BCBC. So we had a player essentially for $40 put himself into a $10,000 tournament. So, you know, pretty impressive, you know, very exciting there. And yeah, that's the kind of stuff that when we're talking about, hey, how are we continuing to grow? It's tournaments almost every day of the week at this point, just trying to push people into the next level.
So Brian, you're the Monmouth Park Tournament Director, but you've also helped and operated contests for other tracks such as Kentucky Downs. Can you tell us about a couple of these contests you've helped with and why you're so gracious and eager to help? And Brian, Brian, Jim, and Dustin are great assets to talk about tournaments after this. They just are very eager to help anybody who's wanting to start up a new tournament.
So the eagerness is a direct link to the fact that they pay me.
They pay you? Wait a minute.
No, in all seriousness, I'm always happy, you know, if it's an email that helps you to, you know, run your own contest. As Michele said, I'm the contest director for Kentucky Downs. They're a small track. They run, you know, 8-10 days a year. They don't have a staff that can, you know, do it themselves. So I run their contest remotely. I did Colonial Downs for a few years, so if it's just you know, I'm always here for, again, an email that can point you in the right direction, or potentially, you know, depending on time of year and if it works out, you know, I'm available to help in more ways than that. But I did want to show, again, as I'm going back to the Kentucky Downs slide, the eagerness does go back to knowing that one, contests work for the track, and two, again, for the horse player, they bring, you know, financial, BCBC, NHC, but knowing that the more contests that are out there, the more entertainment value we're giving to the fans, the more experiences that we're giving. If you go to the NHC and you stand in that room and you see what is now 700 plus men and women all screaming for the same race, playing for the ultimate goal, you leave that room saying, I want to send more people to this. I think 10 years ago was my first NHC. At that point, Monmouth sent maybe 20, 25 players. I think we're up to 55 now. You just want more and more fans and players to experience that. So that's why I'm always willing, I want to do more at Monmouth. I'm willing to help other tracks, Kentucky Downs being one of them. So they reached out to me in 2020 to start doing contests. Before that, they didn't really do any. And their goal has changed over the years, which I think is a very interesting case study. When they first came to me, they said, we are not really interested in maximizing contest handle. We, of course, will take whatever we can get, but that was not their goal. Their goal was, we want to attract eyeballs. They have new ownership, they're doing races a different way. It's during Saratoga, it's during Del Mar. We want to get on the map. We want to stamp ourselves as a main signal and get people thinking, all right, now it's early September, it's late August, it's Kentucky Downs time, just like, middle of July, we start thinking it's Saratoga time. In April and October, it's Keeneland time. So that was our goal. So based on that, we created some small buy-in contests. Again, we don't need someone to buy in at $2,000 and handle to be through the roof at that point. We did $300, $400 contests, which is relatively minimal, to try to get as many players as possible. So that first year we did 2 contests. We had 356 players in the 2 contests. And then in year 2, we decided to do something, seeing the success of year 1, we even built on that even more. We did 6 contest days in 2021. They probably had 9 total racing days. So 3/4 of the meet was a handicapping contest. We had 409 total entries in those 6 contests, and contest handle was $350,000. So again, $350,000 in contest handle over 6 days is, relatively speaking, nothing for Kentucky Downs. But the point is that now there's 409 people that handicapped every single race at Kentucky Downs for 3/4 of the meet, going back to pick 4s, pick 5s. If they handicap every race for 3/4 of the meet, they might just say, all right, I'm going to, even though there's no contest this Tuesday or, Monday, whatever days Kentucky Downs runs, I'm still going to play the races because I've already spent, 3/4 of their meet betting the races. And incrementally, their meet handle has grown and grown and grown and grown. Every year that we've done a contest, the meet handle goes up. I'm not saying that the $18 million increase from 2019 to 2020 was a direct result of the contest, but it's part of their overall track strategy. They've enhanced the on-site experience for horsemen and players that are there. They do handicapping contests. Now they go to Europe to try to get horses from over there. So it's part of their strategy to enhance the meet, and it's, it is proven to be true that every year is a record year after year. This year, in 2024, they changed their strategy. After 4 years of doing we want eyeballs on our races, lower buy-ins, try to maximize the number of entries, they said, we're ready to go for the home run. So they took their big Saturday, I think they have 6 $2 million races, if I'm not mistaken, and they said, we want to do a big money contest that day with the goal of maximizing handle. We know we're not going to have the 640 entries that some of our lower, buy-in contests had, but we want to go fewer players betting big money. And it worked for the most part. They had 134 entries in that one contest, which again is lower in terms of entry numbers than their other small money contests, but handle generated from that one contest and 134 entries was $328,000, and total handle for the day was a new record, up $3 million from the year before. Again, not all of that $3 million obviously is generated from the contest, but we know that $328,000 was, and we know that I would say at least that much, if not more, was outside of contest bets as a result of these 134 people. So it really is an interesting case study of, again, know what your goal is. Some tracks might just say, we have this one big day. We know that people are watching anyway. We want we just want to maximize that big day. If the goal is, we're a smaller track or we're fighting uphill against some of the bigger tracks and we just want to get some eyeballs, a lower buy-in might be the right way to go.
Jim, you also play an important role in the Breeders' Cup Bet-In Challenge as the compliance officer. Can you give us a little history about the BCBC, which is the largest live money handicapping contest in the country? And can you tell us what those contest participants mean to the overall handle over the Breeders' Cup 2 days?
Yeah, the BCBC is the most lucrative handicapping tournament in the country. And this past year, the gentleman that won it took a $150,000 bankroll that he built out of $7,500. He won $412,000, if I recall the check, in addition to that. And it's the most exciting, the most lucrative tournament, the hardest to qualify for outside the NHC, and you can buy into it for $10,000. So I tell everybody that if they're going to bet $7,500 anyway, the best $2,500 you'll ever spend at the Breeders' Cup is to get in the Breeders' Cup betting challenge. And Tim Schramm is paying me to say this. So. I'm the compliance officer because the betting challenge has become so big that there are issues with players playing together, colluding. We had to disqualify some people a few years ago for playing together, for partnering up with some other people and trying to Dutch entries into covering all the horses in a turf race. Once we did that, and once people know that we're looking at their entries, that has gone away. And it's more hoping that people know that we're looking at it. We don't want to catch anybody, but if we catch anybody, as Dustin said, I get a lot of pleasure out of disqualifying people. The Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge, we have roughly, it's about half and half people on site and off site. So let's say we had around 570 this year. 300 were on site, and the $7,500 winds up churning about 1.7 times. So the average handle for a Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge participant is between $13,000 and $14,000. So the total handle, I think at Del Mar, was about 15% of the total on-track handle of the on-track participants there. So it's a huge part of the Breeders' Cup, and we take really good care of those people who come there. And obviously the people that play on XpressBet, that's a boon to that ADW that day, because they're churning the same amount, and that's pretty much an average. A lot of people go busted at $7,500, but some people bet 50 grand. So the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge has been a great success story. It's a little bit more of a challenge when they don't run the Breeders' Cup Classic as the last race, but it's still a great tournament with a lot of excitement, and it's a great thing to be in that room when those last numbers come up there and you see what people have wagered in that last race to try to take a shot. So Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge has been a great thing for me. And I also am the compliance officer for the NHC, and just in case Michele wants me to kick somebody out there.
Speaking of which, you all have been a big supporter of the NHC by hosting qualifiers. Jim, you just mentioned you're the NHC compliance officer. Brian, you are the NHC MC and help us with a lot of player with rules and issues like that. Dustin, you've been to the NHC. XpressBet as a big supporter of the NHC, as a sponsor of the NHC. How important is it for your contest to offer NHC seats, and what is the allure of qualifying to the NHC?
At Monmouth, if we did not include NHC seats in the contest, we would have no players. Some players play for Breeders' Cup seats as well. Obviously, everyone loves cash, but the NHC is that carrot at the end of the year where, you get a free trip to Vegas for the most part. Your hotel is paid for. You get a flight voucher, which will cover all, or if not most of your flight out there. So it's a free trip to Vegas. It is the ultimate horse players convention. It literally is 700 men and women sitting in a room like this, all betting races. So everyone wants to win, of course. Everyone shows up hoping that they win the $800,000 or some sort of prize. But even if you don't, everyone leaves there saying, 1, I had a great time. 2, I need to qualify to go back again. So one of the reasons that Monmouth contest, and I would say all contests, are so successful is players, because we're always going to have interest in that. Players, it's an addiction. I don't play in the NHC, but I feel it. Every year. I went, like I said, probably 10 years ago to experience it once. Like I won't. It'll take COVID, to keep me away from there. You just have to go back every year and experience it. So the players feel that. I feel that personally as someone who gets lucky enough to work at it. And, you know, I just, as I said earlier, again, I want to send as many people to that as possible to experience it, because nobody goes there, plays in it, and says, I'm done. That wasn't for me. That was just kind of boring. You know, everyone says, it was great. I learned a lot. I'll be better next year. Now I have to go qualify and do it.
Well, it's great. It's great because of Michele and Keith and Holly, who worked their tails off for weeks and weeks and weeks to try to get that thing ready. And I've qualified for the NHC 5 times, only cashed 1 time in a consolation tournament, so I'm not that good a tournament player, but I was good enough to get into it. And it is a great experience. And my players, when I first went to Keeneland, we had no online presence at all. This was 20 years ago, 19 and a half years ago. So there were no online qualifiers for the NHC. You had to go to a racetrack. And I remember the first contest I ever worked as assistant mutuals director, we had 530 people for 2 spots. They paid $100 a piece. They drove from all over the country, flew in there because it was so hard to get into the NHC at that time. And I think you only maybe had 300 players at that time. And, but once I saw what it was, and I went to NHC as a host of my players, and once I saw what it was, I wanted to play in it. And it's just a great experience. I will always have NHC spots in my tournaments. And when we started the Grade 1 Gamble, one of the best things about it was I had 32 players, and I gave away 2 NHC spots. I sold it out in 10 minutes. I didn't think I could get 32 players to pay me $3,000. Now I have almost 300 players that pay me $3,500 for a shot at 10 NHC spots and 6 BCBC spots. So it works very well. It's a lucrative tournament to win your way into because you cannot buy your way into NHC. So person comes to my place, plays in a tournament, has a shot at winning $800,000, and an Eclipse Award as the Handicapper of the Year. So the NHC is pretty cool.
I say 800,000 sounds pretty good for a couple days at the windows. But no, you know, I think Michele, you had asked, you know, what is the benefit? And at first, we've run tournaments and we have the ability to test a lot of things. So we've tested tournaments with NHC seats, you know, alongside tournaments without NHC seats, and we found pretty much unequivocally, completely, that when the NHC seats, when the NHC Tour points are up for grabs, more people play in the tournaments, which is great. That's what we're all looking for, is higher turnouts. So when those opportunities exist, those players who are looking for those points, who are looking to punch that NHC ticket, they do show up. Again, we run tournaments with our tracks, so Santa Anita Gulfstream. That group also, you know, Monmouth, Keeneland, we work with Canterbury Park, we work with Hawthorne in Illinois, so some others. And pretty much universally, people come out to seek out those NHC seats and those NHC Tour points. So to reinforce what Jim and Brian said, it's been pretty much a slam dunk for us.
Yes, and we at the NTRA, we want all contests to grow. We want the BCBC to grow, the Grade 1 Gamble to grow, the Pegasus tournament to grow. It just helps everyone. So we will support those contests in any way we can at the NTRA. The last question we have for today is, what advice would you give a track operator contemplating to host a handicapping contest?
So I have 3. I'll go quickly. 1, I would really consider what I mentioned earlier, those free contests. Even if it's just an introductory, you need more time to figure out what's the best live money contest for you. It really is very simple. A company called 123 Racing, I know Rob Earl is in the crowd somewhere from that company. They run our Survival to Shore game. They run our Haskell game. For the racetrack itself, it's pretty turnkey. You don't have to do much other than pick the races every day for those mythical bets. I would certainly consider that. When you do get into the live money contest game and even in the free game, you know, I think identifying your goals is extremely important. Again, are you like Kentucky Downs was 4 years ago and you want to attract eyeballs onto your races? Or are you Kentucky Downs in 2024 and said, all right, we've built something here, we've laid the groundwork, now let's throw the hammer down and go for a really big one. Because it makes a difference. If you don't identify your goals and you just set up a contest based on you just want to copy what we do, or you want to do something, that it might not work because it doesn't match with your goals. Last one for me, when you do decide to host a contest, if it includes on-site participation, make sure that you do it right, because in a lot of instances you might only get one shot. Make sure that the players are well taken care of. Make sure that they have Wi-Fi. There's a place to plug their laptop in. You set up a buffet for them. They have free programs there. If players are driving, flying to your racetrack, you want them to get on your product, these are core players. You need to make sure that they leave that facility, whether it's a OTB, a racetrack, whatever, saying, you know what, even if I might have lost the contest, I feel like I was treated right. I feel like they have my best interest in mind. We'll go back next year for their next contest, because there's a lot of contests out there, and if you miss that opportunity and you just say, here's your betting card, go, and a player leaves that contest not winning any money in the contest and not really feeling appreciated, you might not be able to get them back. So make sure you treat them right.
I've played in those contests where they just say, here's your betting card. And that's not the way to treat people. My advice to anybody wanting to do a tournament would be to reach out to Brian or me. If you're going online, get a hold of Dustin. We've done it before and we've screwed it all up, and we know what not to do. So I can speak for myself, and Brian is so good to help out Kentucky Downs and the other tracks that he's worked with, and I would be more than happy to give what expertise I have to you, that if you want to do a tournament, I'll be glad to talk to you. I'll even come to your track if it's not too bad, so not too long a trip. But tournaments are a plus to the racetrack. There is no negative. The only negative is you got to work hard at it. And that's what we're in here for, to try to build a game. And we need to look at a tournament as an opportunity to increase the revenue for the track, put more eyeballs on your product, and to provide a great experience for these players. And these players deserve it. They spend a lot of money throughout the year playing tournaments. They are the kind of players that you want. You don't get the $2 bettors here. These are players who are serious handicappers and will put money through your windows. And I would think that it would be a good thing for any of you that are track operators to look at tournaments as a revenue source, as a place to shine, as a place to show off your product. And I would be happy to help anybody that wants to get in touch with me.
I'd say, just to add to that, when you're creating that tournament, everything can be a variable. So what I mean by that is, you can pick the number of races you want a tournament to be on. You can pick what the bankroll is. You can pick what the buy-in is. There's no box that you have to live in that says, hey, it has to be this way. And I think what's key is you talk to your key players. You take feedback from them. You say, hey, what would incentivize you? What would entice you? And really, you take that feedback to heart and you build that, because there's no, it's not like, oh, it has to be this way. It has to be $1,000 and $500 bankroll, $500 entry fee. I know there's tracks out there that run tournaments with zero entry fee, and it's all bankroll. And other tracks split at 50-50. Other tracks split at 75-25. There's no set, it has to be this way. So I think, as Brian and Jim said, these guys, phenomenal resources. Michele is a phenomenal resource. Talk to everybody, talk to me, would be happy to help anybody, give our expertise. We've been doing this for quite a few years, so there is a lot of knowledge there, but there's no right or wrong way to do this. And really, when I look at things, it's repetition, it's consistency, it's taking that feedback. The first year we ran the Pegasus tournament was 2018. We got 60-some players in it. I didn't know if that was successful or not. We were sitting there, we're like, was this good? Was this bad? But we stuck with it. We continued to push it. We continued to promote it. We continued to feed into it. And this past year, we had 241. And I think 4 or 5% of Pegasus Day handle at Gulfstream came through that tournament. And that's something that our team takes a lot of pride in. And I think there's many tracks and many events in horse racing that, again, through that same level of commitment and push can get there. But, the sky really is the limit. I know that sounds pretty cliche, right? But that really is the case. And, with some help, with some expertise, with with the right mix and with the right feedback from players, I would say any track can get to a successful level quite quickly in the handicapping space.
I just thought of one more real quick to end it with Dustin talking. Talk to the players. I might have a great idea for a contest. Jim has a lot of great idea for a contest. It might not match up with what the players want. And make sure there's an open line of communication. A lot of times, exactly what the players want might not work for, the track's goals. But just work with the players and keep in mind, there's countless rule changes that I've made over the years as a result of a player emailing in and saying, hey, I think you should include, if you include exactas in this contest, why don't you include daily doubles? You know what, that makes a lot of sense. I just didn't think of that for some reason. There's a lot of rules that I have in current contests that were a result of whether it's direct surveying or just, talking to players at the sign-in table, because that's the ultimate goal of having a contest that accomplishes the goal that I want and accomplishes at least most of the goals that the player wants, because then it works for everybody. So don't just blindly say, all right, here's the contest rules, go. Have a communication with your players and use that to dictate what kind of contest you run.
And I would just say, as a new contest operator, after the first year, and don't get discouraged. Like, it's a lot of word of mouth too. Your first one may not get the numbers you want, but you've just got to keep persisting, and they'll grow, but just don't get discouraged after the first one.
Very good point.
Well, we can open up for questions, and thank you all for attending this last session.
I'm ready for a question. I love this panel discussion, and it brought new lights to things that I haven't considered so far. So here's my suggestion to this solution, and you guys are the experts, decide if it works or not. Since attendance to a racetrack is free, I was thinking, what if there were tickets for different tiers, bronze, middle, silver, gold, and the more expensive the ticket, the better chances, the greater their experience. It can be something as simple as, hey, you got a chance to win a free ticket where you get to stay in our VIP lounge for 1 weekend. It's valid for a year, but you got to call us in advance. Or maybe, hey, you get to you can visit the winner of the of this race, and you can talk to them. Something like that. My direction is spoil them, and I feel like you get even more people coming to something as simple as the handicap. And hopefully someday for major racing events like the Kentucky Derby, it can be overcrowded that there's too many people and not enough tickets. That's actually a good sign, and I'm hoping that for all of you. However you do your work. I'm from Saudi, so I don't know exactly which tracks you guys manage, but based on this talk, I feel like you're wizards in your own rights.
We give out different prizes. We've talked about a lot of money contests today, which is the majority of contests. But there's no reason for some of the free contests that I mentioned. We've given out Haskell tickets. That's our big race as a prize. You can be creative. Again, talk to your players. If you're maybe a smaller track, or if you don't have the type of player that wants to put up $200 for a betting contest, there's no reason you can't start small and do a $20 handicapping contest, and the winner gets a season pass or a luxury box or something. We've used all kinds of different inventory for different contests over the years. But yeah, I think it all comes down to talking to the players. Our players typically want BCBC, NHC, cash, but everyone can be different.
All right. Thank you all for attending, and see you at the cocktail party.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this symposium for our 50th anniversary. Thanks for the audience participation. The final attendance was 674 attendees for this year's symposium. So thank you very much for being part of that and making this so special. So there's going to be a reception tonight, open bar, some sliders. So enjoy that, and safe travels home. Thank you.